And hello, welcome back to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I'm Gary Mack.
And I'm Rich Baxter. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing good, Mr. Baxter. Lots of stuff to talk about today. The baseball season is almost a week old, and it's threatened already. We could see the end of it before it even really gets any traction. Miami Marlins breakout COVID-19. 17 players reported, 17 members of the organization, I should say, some coaches involved with that, have the COVID-19. They've stopped playing ball as far as the Marlins are concerned, and they've gotten a week off. They switched the schedule around. They played your Phillies. How are the Phillies, by the way? Are they coming down with anything?
Apparently not, according to what I've read so far. The Phillies off until Friday now. They've had the whole week off just about out of caution for, like you said, they played the Marlins over the weekend. They lost to them, too, 2 games out of 3. And the Marlins got their final test after the last game, which was Sunday. And then they were supposed to travel back down to Miami. And sometime between the end of the game and the following morning, which was Monday, they learned that there was a big infection on the team, as you said. As far as I know, they're still in Philadelphia. They're still quarantined in Philly. That's the last that I heard. That was as of last night. A lot of the players still in the same hotel. Really, this is the first big outbreak in the MLB as we just started up the season, as you said. Now, we expected something like this to happen, but here it is now. And all of a sudden, we're hearing rumblings of maybe a cancellation of the season from certain people. And it was a big outbreak.
Well, it certainly was, Rich. And the sad part about the whole thing is it almost sounds like it could have been avoided. The story is, or the rumor is, I should say, that one or more players went out on the town in Atlanta when they were down there for their final exhibition game. Now, if it was one guy, he went out, he got it, and he spread it to everybody. If it was more than one and they all got it together, nobody knows for sure. But this is the thing that could end the season. And you know how stupid. I mean, the NBA, same thing. They're in a bubble. They're trying to keep everybody self-contained to avoid this. And one moron goes out to a strip joint because he wants chicken wings. And I don't know.
Who would have thought that wouldn't have happened?
I I don't know whether he got, he came back tested positive or what, but the point is they are preaching this stuff to you. And if you wish to get the season in, why do you pull a stupid maneuver like this and go out one night? It's really stupidity and immaturity and whatever else you want to point at it. But I don't know. This could take down a whole season. It's throwing the schedule off. I don't know what the schedule is going to be. I don't know whether Miami will just pick up their schedule because they're supposed to come into New York next week. I mean, on a selfish point of view, I'm trying to line up guests, and you're trying to get guests to talk about the team coming in, and I don't know what to do for next week. But that's another story. That's my problem. But it's just an annoying thing, stupidity on the part of the Marlins for doing this, and in the beginning, it almost seemed like they were trying to point the finger, not the Marlins, but in general, they were trying to point the finger at the Phillies and say, well, the visitors' clubhouse, maybe it wasn't clean and they weren't testing the guys and everything. And the Phillies swore up and down that they fumigated it. And they cleaned it. The Yankees were bringing in their own because the Yankees were supposed to play the Phillies, and the Yankees were bringing in their own staff, and it's just quite a mess. And I guess it's just another big reason why they probably shouldn't have played this season at all.
Yeah, and like you said, there was a lot of finger pointing, a lot of um, blaming going around, and that's what happens with this COVID-19 pandemic. Everybody thinks they have an angle on what may have happened, but I did listen to a program on Monday morning about the contracting of the COVID virus. It says that was an expert that I was listening to, and he said it takes anywhere from 4 to 5 days to actually show the symptoms and have a positive test from when you're exposed to the virus. So he put that right back to the time where the Marlins were in Atlanta or possibly even at home. So if you listen to that show on Monday morning, which was about 10 a.m. on Sirius XM, the MLB network channel, that's what he said exactly. And that's apparently what happened. And as you said, Gary, these players, they know what they're up against, but, they've probably been doing this for years. It's a party atmosphere when they're on the road. They want to go out. They want to enjoy themselves. They're celebrities. It's easy for them to meet people. Being introduced as a Major League Baseball player, um, that they're human beings. At the same time, I understand what you mean exactly about spoiling. One apple is going to spoil the bunch. And in this respect, these people now have COVID. So it's quite possible that they could be very sick in a short amount of time. We hope not, but they actually have this virus now. So their lives may change because of it. And that's what I haven't heard a whole lot, just that they tested positive and everybody expects them to get better, but sometimes you don't get better.
And and now they shut down the whole Phillies week. I mean, their whole schedule has been upended because they didn't know whether, rightfully so, that they didn't know whether it was something in the ballpark in Philadelphia or what. But it's just it's kind of. I just think it's kind of careless behavior. You know that this thing is going around. If you can't one season, you can't skip the nightlife just to get in for 3 months of baseball, then there's something wrong there, and especially in the middle of a pandemic. So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. If you're a professional athlete, they're trying to get a season in, to go out to a club for chicken wings or anything like that is simply unexcusable. Um, I think you should be suspended for something like that.
I
Really, I
agree.
mean,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it. But Florida's having it bad. I'm just reading an article: 217 deaths in one day down in Florida from this COVID-19. So they're getting it very bad down there. Set off a chain reaction of alarms all the way up the MLB. They wanted to idle the Phillies for a few days, make sure they weren't carrying the virus. And you've got some spillover into that. You have,
Mm-hmm.
where the Marlins stayed in Philadelphia, they've been exposed to people. They're
That's true.
possibly still there. That's got to be completely clean. So it's a mess. But apparently they're going to keep trying to go ahead with the season.
We'll be playing the season into December, I think. They'll be playing right into spring training next year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with all the postponed games between the Yankees and the Phillies. They were scheduled to play 4 games, 2 in Philly, 2 in New York. Those are going to have to probably be made up, I would assume. Um, but yeah, news that reverberated across baseball, and just so happens it was the Marlins this time. But in other news, the governor of New York pitching to the MLB to play in New York State amid the COVID-19 crisis. This was just a story that was published this morning. And Andrew Cuomo saying they should come to New York State if unable to play ball in their home state. And of course, the Toronto Blue Jays actually ended up in Buffalo, going to be playing their season of home games there. But the governor in New York now offering MLB teams to play in New York State. So,
Well, going back to the Toronto thing, wouldn't you know it? We were talking about it last week. We had them playing in Pittsburgh. They were it looked like a done deal, and then the state of Pennsylvania turns around and says, "No, we're not going to allow you to play." So uh, they didn't really want to go to Buffalo because they didn't. The lighting wasn't as adequate. I think they're going to add lighting for this 60 game campaign and probably change it eventually in the ballpark. But I guess for the time being, they'll bring auxiliary lighting in for the time being. But yeah, it came down to that was the only place they could go play, and thank goodness they had a place. And it really kind of makes sense in a way. It's close to Toronto. It is their AAA team. So there may or may not be Toronto fans in Buffalo. Minor leagues, as you know, is kind of a strange bird in a way. We think that because it's a AAA team of Toronto that everybody's a Blue Jay fan up there. Well, that's not necessarily true. They're Buffalo fans in certain areas, or they're Brooklyn fans that root for the team, but don't necessarily root for the parent team. Um, Case in point, upstate New York is Hudson Valley Renegades in New York Penn League, which is, I guess, now defunct. But they're Tampa Bay um, farm team, and a lot of the people Met fans that go there, but they're fans of the Hudson Valley team because it's their local team. And there are a few that probably are Tampa Bay fans as well, but usually it's different. But it does make sense for Toronto if people, if they're allowed to come across the border and return. That's the big thing. Uh, it makes sense for them that it's right near them. As far as Cuomo goes, well, maybe I better not say.
yeah.
To me, he's a moron. One of the worst governors in the states that we could have. Unfortunately, I'm living in this under this uh, regime of Herr Cuomo, and you have to do it that way, or maybe like this. Uh, so, this is the guy that killed 5,000 or more people by moving them from the hospital with COVID into nursing homes that weren't protected with old people that are top uh, uh, the top candidates for the COVID. And, let's just put him in there. He didn't care. Now he's grabbing all the glory because we opened up right. We're not having a second wave and all of this
Yeah.
stuff. So he's so full of crap that his eyes are brown. And he, here's the thing: if you fly in from Florida to visit your loved ones, you've got to quarantine for 14 days. But he's going to have baseball players come in and out of the state. It makes no sense. It just makes no sense. This is the stupidity of this governor. Uh, but it's money, and he's a money hungry fool. He's a thief and a liar, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, nicely said there. Well, yeah, as we said, South Florida home to 29% of Florida's population, counts for 44% of the new cases. They've had 215 deaths consecutively now, day to day, in the state, and they're getting it bad down there. And I think a few months ago, I remember saying that I thought they were saying that the heat would dissipate the virus. It would make it less susceptible to strike a population. That's what they were saying early on back in March. I know because I was down in Florida and I remember hearing that, oh, it won't affect you as bad in the heat. Well, this sort of blows that out of the water.
Well, I think, a lot of the problems are these kids. They don't listen. And had they gone about and continuing, something as simple as the social distancing and wearing a mask, a lot of this may not have taken place. They crowded into bars. They're breathing on one another. Guys get drunk and they're hanging all over people, and you're talking up and you're spitting all over the place. I mean, that's part of it. And I still think a lot of these protests have something to do with it. We don't know how many people that left the protest in New York or in Portland or Seattle and went back to Florida. They might have went back and brought this disease back with them. We don't know that, and they're not allowed, or I don't know. At least in New York, I don't think they're allowed to ask anybody if got COVID where you at a protest, because they don't want to find the truth out in New York. Uh, and a lot of that could be now. Let me just take a minute. Let me get back on the soapbox for just a second, and tell everybody that Rich and I are, we're a little bit older guys probably, and we both wear the mask when we go out, and we're in different states, so we're not wearing a mask now. We're not in the same room, so we don't have to wear a mask now. Um, and I understand your argument, and I agree wholeheartedly about the rights and losing our freedoms. But by God, we've lost so many freedoms already this past year, with the restaurants closed, the diners closed, the gymnasiums closed, the barber shops closed, the hair salons closed. I think you have to pick and choose your battle. We're getting some of that back. So if you want to keep holding on to those other rights, wear a mask when you go in. It's a simple little thing. Take it off when you get back in your car. But wear the mask because you protect somebody. You may protect grandma. You may protect grandpa. But just wear it. Try to do social distancing. Look, I hate it as much as anybody else. I don't like being told what to do. I'm an old guy. I'm in the risk category, so I wear it. But to the young people, just just wear it. It's a nuisance, a pain in the ass. Yeah, it's against your civil liberties. It's against your rights as an American. But you know what? Sometimes you got to pick your battles. And if we can get back those other things, the restaurants being open, and the bars being open, and whatever else we need, the gyms being open, and we can beat this virus, then you can fight the mask thing. But until then, what are you getting mad at somebody in a store that's got a policy to wear a mask, and you're getting in a fight with them, or somebody else, another patron of the store telling you to put a mask on? What do you bother getting in a fight for? It's ridiculous. Just put a mask on. And again, I've got to get off my soapbox because this is turning into a political show instead of a baseball show. But I just wanted to say that, Rich, because I think people, you know, I don't know. I get the whole we're losing our rights, and look, I agree with everything you say, but I think sometimes you have to make little tiny concessions to win back other things, and then you go after the little concessions.
Yeah, and as you said, picking your battles correctly. And in the MLB, baseball goes on. And last night there was a battle, of course. The Houston Astros playing the LA Dodgers in Houston. Pitch 96-mile-an-hour fastball over the head of Alex Bregman, leading off the sixth inning. And then a curveball over the head of Carlos Carrera, three batters later. And Joe Kelly was on the mound for the Dodgers, and he went to incite the Houston Astros players, which led to both benches clearing, almost a brawl there in Houston. And this is baseball, so you're going to have these things. So here you got another obstacle here when things like this happen. Benches clear. There could be a fight. That's probably your worst case scenario in baseball.
Well, and this is all, of course, because of the World Series and Houston supposedly cheated, or they got caught cheating, and they beat the Dodgers. Hey, you know what? It went 7 games. Then you should have beat them in Game 7. And where was Game 7 last year? I'm not. I can't remember. Was it in L.A. or was it in Houston? I mean, you should. Oh no, last year was Washington. Excuse me. This is 2 years ago that they're still complaining about. I mean, come on. You could have beat them and you didn't. So whether they cheated or not, they still had to hit the ball when it got pitched. Maybe if you would have fielded a ground ball that you booted, maybe if you would have got a more timely hit. I think this is petty bull crap, and you know what? I just put the Dodgers into the category, the Yankees category for me. The teams most hated it. Now they just joined the ranks. Never was a Dodger fan. Now I hope they never win another damn thing the rest of their lives. This is petty bull crap, and you want to throw, and then you know I know it's part of the game, and it's all of that. But the old days, the way they did it, it wasn't anything like this. They made sure there was one message sent, and that message was sent. This is not the you hit me, so I'll hit you. They did it in the old days, but they made sure they hit you, or
Yeah.
you were eating dirt. Bob Gibson
Right.
didn't give a crap. But these
Yeah.
guys are, they're throwing at their tushes and then they throw with their head. You can't have that. You know, it's just it, and it's petty bullshit. So, pardon me. I'm really going today, aren't I? I'm in a
Yeah.
rant.
Yeah. You're on a roll.
you better calm me down here,
We
Rich.
got to beat. We got to have our finger on the beep button. Right? Beep beep beep.
I just think it's. I'm sorry. I just think it's so ridiculous. The the stuff and you lost, L.A. You lost. You choked 3 years in a row or 2 years in a row in the World Series. So just admit it. Just take it like men and admit it. You spent all that money and you still choked it up.
Yep. So baseball continues to play down in Houston there with the Dodgers, and we'll see what happens with the Phillies. As I was saying on Monday, doctor was saying it takes a good 4 to 5 days, 3 to 5 days for any positive results to show up. Uh, Philly schedule has to go on. I'm sure they're playing the Mets probably soon, Gary. So
Another couple of
uh,
weeks, I think.
yeah,
And Rich, getting back to that point now, and getting back to the whole season thing, wasn't that the? I understand. I'm okay. You drop the games because you don't know, but isn't that why they had a 60-man player pool though, so you could replace the players? I mean, this. I understand that could be a little unfair, but that's the breaks. They're playing, AAA and 4A guys, then they could have a whole team of AAA guys playing major league level guys. but them there are the breaks. They're all playing by the same rules. But this giving them time off allows anybody that's sick to really start to recover. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I thought the whole idea was of a 60-player pool is that if you get guys sick, you replace them, and you go on from there. Now they're changing the rules midstream. I don't understand that. They still have enough players to put out a team. Sure, it's not going to be the same competition, but them there are the breaks, and they wanted to go out and party, so that's what happens.
Yeah, unfortunately. Moving on in another aspect of the COVID environment, so to speak, is the television games of baseball. Of course, we've heard a lot of the fan noises and some ambient noises being mixed in by ESPN. That was well needed. I watched a few games in preseason with just the announcers, and it seemed like they were locked in a hermetically sealed office calling the game. There was no life to the broadcast. Now, if you listen over the radio or on television, you can hear some crowd noises, some ambient uh, wind noise, so to speak, during the game. But it's got some broadcast workers worried that Major League Baseball's going to change the way they broadcast baseball to a new type of a slimmed down program where maybe some of the individual broadcasts will be obsolete now. And it's not so much a worry that it'll happen this season only, but it'll happen in seasons to come as well. So the Network, which televises the Yankees, normally has about 25 people working in a broadcast truck during home games. And now they're down to just a few. So few of these broadcast networks are worried about the future of MLB broadcasts.
Well, it's interesting. I've found the games. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the DH rule or what, but I found them very. I don't think they're any quicker. You'd think they'd be faster without fans there or anything. I don't find them any quicker. I don't find them any. I find them boring. I think. I think we really see what the fan base adds when you do have people in the stands, and without it, it is quite boring. It's just not the same game. And I made the comment the other night. I was watching a game, and I'm just looking for a plug here. That's that the game was so bad that the cutouts were even leaving. So
The cutouts
they
were
had enough of the game too. So they were
they
leaving.
left early.
Yeah, they were leaving early as well. So I don't know. I just I watched the first couple of Met games, and they had the cutouts all over the ballpark. And it's a little stupid, but you get used to it, and it kind of blends in. And like you say, if they pipe in the right atmosphere, it kind of you can kind of get into it. They played in Boston for 2 days. They had no cutouts behind in the stands, but they had them in the great on top of the Great Wall in those seats.
Uh-huh.
Don't the Green Monster seats. I don't understand why they did that. They had cutouts there, but nothing behind home plate. And I thought that was rather dull. It was really dull because there was nothing really to get lost in, nothing to see.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I guess I don't. I guess I'm still on the side of they just shouldn't have played the season. It just seems to be too forced, too too sterile in almost a way. It's they're not paying any attention really. They're high fiving. I don't see there's half of the guys wear masks in the dugout, half of them don't. They're conversing, which is okay. I mean, you knew that was going to happen, but I what I couldn't figure out was, and then I read what it was. I don't know if you noticed the big tents along the third base and the first base next to the dugouts. Have you seen those things?
Yeah. Hmm.
And do you know what they're for at all?
Not quite sure.
Well, I didn't know either, and I researched it, and apparently they did that to extend the dugouts so you could have socially distancing if you wish. Uh, I don't hardly see anybody using it. I mean, they put this, and why they put such an elaborate structure. I mean, these things look like they're solid in there.
Right.
Um,
Which is good. I mean, an
it's
abundance of
good,
caution.
yeah, but I don't know. And it goes like 20 rows back. I don't think you need that. You know, I don't think they really need that much. But anyways, I don't even know where my train of thought went. But
I've
the
s-
games have been, I don't know.
I've seen some Phillies players sitting behind home plate 10, 15 rows up, some of the pitchers that aren't
Yeah.
scheduled to pitch that day, some other players.
Have you been seeing it since the season officially? I saw it before when they played the exhibition game. I have not seen anybody sitting uh, since the season starts, and I'm just wondering if they're not allowed to sit there.
Yeah, I've been seeing them sit there during games.
Oh,
So,
okay.
um, a couple times. So it's interesting to see what's going on and how they're going to get through this season. But back to the premise of the players actually having the virus now. What's going to happen if they're hospitalized? If they're very sick, God forbid one of them passes away, is this season still going to go on? Is this like a war, like a war where you get the first couple lines of troops and they're going to drop? Some of them are going to drop. Are they going to continue this game and this season if something, God forbid, like that happens?
Well, I can't answer that question. The only thing I could say is that the death rates have been coming down across the nation. We do have better therapeutics, and we do have plenty of supplies of ventilators and whatnot. And apparently, what I hear is a lot of people that are getting it now are not having to go on ventilators unless it's an age thing. If somebody elderly gets it, it's a lot of young people getting it, and they're they're more apt to be able to fight this. Ball players are younger, and they're more apt to be able to fight it. And as I said, there's more therapeutics. You have the uh, uh, I don't even want to pronounce it, hydrochloroquine, that doctors are swearing by it. CNN doesn't want it, and MSNBC, condemns it. But I don't know where they got their doctor degrees from. Uh, I've seen doctors say it does great things. There's another one. I can't think of the name of it. To get into these names, Remitar or something, and there's a vaccine that could be here in a few months, hopefully by the end of the year. So, but I think, I guess the point I'm trying to say is that we've learned more about the disease. We learn how to control it more, and not so much control it, but how to treat it. That's what I'm really wanting to say. Because I know somebody will say we can't control it. That's why it's an outbreak. But we do know how to treat it better, and you don't hear as much about the hospitals some area, there's going to be hot spots. You're going to have areas that are overcrowded, but for the most part, you don't hear where the hospitals are bulging at the seams. I think there was a city in Arizona. I think they were almost like at 90% capacity. But a lot of that too was because they opened up to minor surgeries again, and so that filled hospital beds. And then when you get an outbreak of COVID, it does that. But look, I don't know. I'm not an expert in this. I'm just going what I read and what I hear on television and stuff, and read on the internet. But I think that the therapies are a little bit better, and it seems that the cases are hitting younger people, and they may be milder. There's a lot of people that have tested positive that that don't get any symptoms at all. And then you got Freddie Freeman, who had 104 temperature, but that was a month ago. See, now it you don't hear a lot about people getting a lot of high temperatures unless they're just not reporting it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll keep a watch on that for you. Let you know about the Phillies and the Marlins, how they continue on their season. Let's take a look around the standings here for the 2020 season so far. Early into this first week of the season here, Tampa Bay Rays out in the American League East, leading that division. Got the Cleveland Indians with the same record, 4-1 Central. Tie out there in the West, Astros 3 wins, 2 losses, same as the Athletics. Did you want to try to take the National League, Gary?
I don't have it in front of me right now.
All
If
right.
you have it, you can take it.
Let me keep rolling then. Miami Marlins in first place so far. In the NL East in this early going, they've only played 3 games. They're 2-1. They've got a tie with the New York Mets for first place, but percentage points, they're above the Mets, 0.667 to the Mets 600 for first place there. And then NL East, the Chicago Cubs, a surprise out there in the Central, 4-1 record so far. I got off to a good start here in this, as we've been saying, it's a sprint to 60 games. It's going to be over before we can blink. San Diego Padres out west got out to a good start. They're 4-1. Colorado Rockies right behind them with 3-1. So, as we were saying last week on the show, it's going to be a team that comes out and really slugs away and gets off to a good start in this 60-game series. You can't afford a 3-game losing streak. That's probably equivalent to a 7 or 8-game losing streak. And a couple teams, including the Nationals, have had a 3-game losing streak. The Reds with a 4-game losing streak so far in this season, and the Boston Red Sox with a 4-game losing streak. So they're off to a bad start already, Gary.
Yeah, you get. I had heard somebody say you equate the. I think a 1 game loss is equated to roughly 2.7 of a game in a 162 game season. So 4 games, you're almost 10 game loss on a regular type of season. So it's going to be tough. You get in a hole early. It doesn't. It's just that there's not enough time to dig out of it. In
Yeah.
162 games, if you get off to a poor start, you still got 140 games left. You don't. What do you got? You got 40 games. And how are you going to make up a 10 game deficit in 40 games? Could be done, but boy, you get some good playing then.
Yeah, and everything's going to be speeded up within 3 weeks' time. We're going to be hearing a lot about the wild card races. They already have the standings up for them. Everybody's a little bit close right now, but in 3 weeks from now, that's going to be a much talked about event there with the MLB wild card race. And everything's going to be speeded up this year, Gary. It seems like before we know it, this season's going to be in the books with just 60 games, and I don't know. It's hopefully they'll get it in.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what their choices are, and let's hope that they can do it.
Yep.
Rich, I've
Other,
got one other thing I'd just like to say if before we close out, if that's where we were heading with this. Sam Coonrod is my new hero. Sam Coonrod stood for the national anthem when the rest of his San Francisco Giant coward teammates took a knee on opening day. Sam was the only man to stand. He said he's a Christian and he only kneels to God and to no one else. So he's my new hero. I hope Sam has a terrific year and uh, hopefully he's a free agent and the Mets can sign him or something and get him out of that den of iniquity in San Francisco.
yeah, that's for sure. Well, one final note of today's show: big baseball card, one of the best selling in Topps history,
Yeah.
was a Topps card sold only on the website called Topps Now. And not only then the first pitch of the season there for Dr. Fauci's card, 51,500 Fauci's were sold when the card hit the website last week. Probably one of the worst pitches that we've ever seen from a player, or guy that was making a first pitch rather. But he's got a hot baseball card there with Topps.
Yeah, he certainly does. Good for him, I guess. Yeah, it was funny. That was a terrible pitch, and who'd have thunk that the card would be such a big seller? But that's pretty funny, and I think number two might have been Bartolo Colon's home run when he hit that. So I don't know. Um, but I remember that sold big as well when it came out. But Dr. Fauci getting his baseball card and it's the top seller. That's I hope he bought a bunch of them though, because in the future they could be worth something.
Yeah, especially with this shortened season, that sort of thing. But I didn't jump in on it, but hopefully some of our listeners did.
Yeah, I didn't either. I know they do these special cards for special things, and uh, but I didn't follow it. But that's pretty cool, and who knew he was that popular? I saw him on an interview yesterday. I don't think he even knew he was that popular.
Yeah. Well, we'll bring you the next edition of the Baseball Talk Radio show next week. Be sure to tune in to our show where your favorite podcasts are listened to. You can go to our site at anchor.fm/baseball talk radio. You can download the show, listen to the show from there, even donate to the show if you want to donate $1 a month to our coffee club members. That would be awesome. Just $1, I think it's 99 cents a month. We can probably get some more good stories up here for you on the web. As Gary takes care of the show with the video on YouTube, you can see us. If you have a strong will, you want to check us out on YouTube. We have good radio voices, I'm being told, Gary.
Well, that's why we try to put little different effects in there during the video to make it more interesting. So uh, go check us out at YouTube, and you also can check us out at the Patreon page, patreon.com/baseball talk, and you could leave a donation there. It helps us to you know get better and try to improve our equipment and stuff so you get better entertainment out of this. And And don't forget, when you do go to Anchor and or Apple or Google Play, wherever you get the podcast, even YouTube, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. It helps us with the show and helps us grow the show, and it's very important. And so please check that out and subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts or Google Play, wherever you watch or listen to the podcast.
Yep. And send us a line, Gary at baseballtalkradio.com. You can reach me at Rich at baseballtalkradio.com. And wanted to shout out to Jeff. Thank you for the email from last week. He had brought up that some of the networks are putting superimposed ads on, like, say, the pitcher's mound, left field line, the right field line. I've seen it with the local broadcast of the team already. I'm not that enthused about it, but I understand, in this time, perhaps, the revenue makeup is necessary, but didn't want to see a whole lot more ads in the game.
And any closing thoughts on the Nike swoosh on the uniform jersey?
My thought initially, I wasn't very upset by it, but I think it's too prominent. It's right up in the area below the shoulder, on the chest of the player. That it's very prominent. Maybe that's more popular with some people. I don't know. I mean, people tend to want to buy that for that swoosh. There's a certain thing to be said about that, but I don't think they should have been allowed to do that. All the years that the other manufacturer had at that, there was just a little logo on the sleeve, I believe, was Majestic. And,
put it on the sleeve, Manfred. You caved in again. You gave Nike what they wanted because they took over the contract from Under Armour. I mean, it looks stupid to have a swoosh in the middle of a uniform. I mean, you got classic uniforms. You got the Red Sox. You got the Yankees even. The Phillies, they got the P on one side, and then the other side they got a swoosh. It doesn't.
Yeah, they sort of took a lot of real estate, so to speak, away from teams like the Mets, the Yankees, any team, the Dodgers, the Astros. They've muscled in, so to speak, on their real estate, their own brands.
Yeah.
So.
And it just doesn't look. It looks out of play. It doesn't look right.
Yeah, it
just looked like it looks amateurish. Somebody stuck a swoosh. Yeah, stick it right there.
And you had to figure, knowing the way Nike is, that was going to happen, just because that's the way they are.
Yeah, put it on the sleeve. It looks neater. It looks better, and it looks ridiculous where it is. All right, that's all I got. I'm done.
Everyone. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Gary's going to be socially distancing, cleaning those hands up, of course, as we all should be doing, and I hope you're doing as well. We got our masks when we go out in the public. Philly's mask here. I've got a number of other masks as well. So please remember, we're still in this pandemic, everyone. We want everybody to keep listening to the show, stay safe, and as Gary says during his Mets Musing show, kind of stay optimistic.
That's right, that we can get this season passed, and got my mask, Rich, so wear a mask.
All right, we'll talk to you again next week, folks.